Canada's position on the developments in the Middle East remains clear. The Islamic Republic of Iran is the principal source of instability and terror throughout the Middle East. It has one of the world's worst human rights records and must never be allowed to obtain or develop nuclear weapons.
The first time since becoming Prime Minister, Mark Carney agrees with Trump. The Ayatollah is dead. Israel is happy. Will Iran become once again a U.S. ally? And at 7:30, we are joined by a special guest to speak about one of the most difficult topics to address: child predators. My name is Nico Lagan, and I'm too conservative for the conservatives. My co-host, Rob Ambrose, not woke enough for the liberals. We are the political orphans. As you can see, I'm alone. Rob is with his son. His son is visiting. I'm not sure if I was supposed to say that or not, but hey, his son's visiting, so he is unavailable tonight, and he's doing the right thing. Spending time with your kid is extremely, extremely important. So there you are. You guys are stuck with me and me alone tonight. Actually, no, that's not true. For the first 27 minutes, or 30 minutes, that is, because we are joined by a man by the name of Craig Sawyer, ex-Navy SEALs, founder of Vets for Child Rescue. I've interviewed him in the past a couple of years ago. It's going to make for a very interesting conversation, but I can tell you, if you guys stick around for this, it is not an easy subject to speak about. It is all about pedos, catching them, and what they are all about. I'm telling you right now, it's not, speaking to him is not, I don't want to say a pleasant thing, because he's a very, very cool dude. Absolutely, absolutely love to record with him, but it is not an easy topic to cover. But it needs to be talked about. It absolutely needs to be talked about. But before we do that, let's jump in the main topic of the day, which is what happened yesterday. We're all aware of what happened yesterday. We're all aware that the U.S. and Israel have attacked Iran. So unless you've been sleeping under a rock since yesterday morning, you are fully aware of what's going on. I'm not here to show you the bombing. I'm not here to talk about what's happening there, because we all know what's happening. But the question I want to ask you guys before we get into it is, do you agree with what US and Israel did? Yes, no? Tell me in the comments if you agree, if you disagree. But I also want to know why. Why do you agree or disagree with what happened over the weekend? It would have been Saturday morning, the night of Friday to Saturday. So here's what we know. The US and Israel attacked Iran yesterday morning during the night of Friday to Saturday. Trump reports that the Ayatollah is dead, which automatically I started thinking, is the Sun's King coming back? Because he's been an exile in the US for a while now. As per the Crown Prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, my apologies, Reza Pahlavi himself does not publicly advocate for the restoration of his dynasty, instead stating that the matter is for Iranians themselves to decide in a nation's referendum whether or not to restore the constitutional monarchy in the House of Pahlavi. So, always interesting, and you'll understand why I call it interesting. Interesting shouldn't be a term. I should stop using the term interesting, because it's kind of a weak term, but I often use it because I'm not sure what else to call this, because at the end of the day, I'm a conspiracy theorist, right? I've been looking into this for a very, very long time, and there seems to be a pattern. There's always a pattern when it comes to the Middle East, especially when the US is involved. And I digged into it a bit, because it had been a while since the US invaded another country, until this year, because They did it in Venezuela. Now they're doing it in Iran. But before we talk about the past, before we talk about the pattern, we should talk about what Carney said, because that's the part that really, really surprised me. I was very, very surprised to hear Mark Carney agree with Trump. This is probably the first time from memory that I can think off the bat right now that he actually agrees with Trump, which I'm always very skeptical of someone that disagrees with somebody else all the time and now agrees when a lot of people in the world do not back what Trump and Israel did. And before we get, as I said, to history, to look at the pattern of what the US has a tendency to do, I want to play the video of Mark Carney. This was taken yesterday in his visit to mini Canada or India. I was laughing because I saw videos of him arriving at the airport in India. I'm like, oh shit, did he just arrive in Toronto? Is that Brampton right there? Because it looked the exact same. There was a bunch of Indians dancing, and that to me is exactly how Brampton has become. But, you know, before I get into it, yes, I agree with you. Woke till you're broke. I completely agree with you that they're buddies. I've said this so many times. Just look every single time they meet each other. Every time they meet each other, they're very frenzy. Not only that, but if you look at Westinghouse, a company that is owned in majority by Brookfield, they just signed a massive contract with the US under Trump, and I believe Westinghouse Nuclear, I just want to make sure, from my memory, it's $80 or $90 billion contract with the US. I just want to make sure. Yeah, so it's $80 billion. So at the center of the new strategy partnership, at least 80 billion of new reactors will be constructed across the United States using Westinghouse AP1000s, very similar to the ones that they're installing in Zelensky in Ukraine. So, woke till you're broke. What I'm saying is I'm trying to connect the dots for people. But at the end of the day, Westinghouse is owned in majority by Brookfield, and they just signed an $80 billion with the US under Trump. So they're very good friends. Just look at the way they act, way they see each other. It's not a surprise at all that they're good friends. But Mark Carney never really agreed with Trump publicly, which is what I find interesting. Is why is he agreeing with him now? Because you saw over the past few weeks, even few months. Well, let's say few weeks, at least a month, because the Iranian protests have been going on for a while, and it seems like when you're a liberal in Canada, you can't say that an Islamic regime is not good, because you can't say that because we need to be inclusive and accepting, right? But it's a very interesting position that he took publicly, because up to now he's always been talking. He's always going against what Trump is doing, against what the US is doing, but now he's publicly acknowledging and agreeing with what they did. So here's the video of Mark Carney yesterday morning. I think I saw it at like 8:30 in the morning, live from India. Here's Mark Carney speaking about what Trump and Israel has done.
Canada's position on the developments in the Middle East remains clear. The Islamic Republic of Iran is the principal source of instability and terror throughout the Middle East. It has one of the world's worst human rights records and must never be allowed to obtain or develop nuclear weapons.
And that's the magic word right there. I'm going to obviously let the video go, but this is the magic word. As soon as I heard that everybody is talking about nuclear, raised an alarm in my head, because we've heard this speech many times in the past. But let's finish the video.
Canada and our international partners have called consistently upon the Iranian regime to end its nuclear program, including at the G7 summit in Kananaskis and with the United Nations reimposition of sanctions this past September. We've sanctioned over 250 Iranian entities. We've listed the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist entity. And despite numerous diplomatic efforts, Iran has neither fully dismantled its nuclear program, halted all enrichment activities, nor ended its support for regional terrorist proxy groups. Canada stands with the Iranian people in their long and courageous struggle against this oppressive regime, and we reaffirm Israel's right to defend itself. Canada supports the United States acting to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to prevent its regime from further threatening international peace and security. And the Canadian government urges the protection of all civilians in this conflict.
So there you have it. Mark Carney endorsing the US/Israel action in Iran. And what was the magic word? Nuclear. We cannot let we cannot let Iran develop nuclear weapon. But if you've been paying attention, if you're old enough, like me, you've heard this conversation many times before. This is not the first time we hear this message. And before we talk history, I just wanted to mention, I did try to get, I was trying to get Salman Sima to come on the show tonight, but I probably reached out too late. I don't know why I wasn't thinking about it yesterday, but I reached out to him and hopefully we can get him on the show. If you guys remember, he is someone that he's an ex-Iranian prisoner that escaped to Canada something like 10-15 years ago. I also reached out to the guy, I don't know if you guys have heard that, but there's a guy, an Iranian in Toronto. He's a boxer actually. I think he was Canadian champion. One of his gym got shot like 17 times. So I did reach out to him to see if he'd come on the show. So we might have a very interesting guest coming on. But that being said, the main reason, at least from my understanding, from what we're hearing right now, is that they invaded Iran because they were developing nuclear weapons. But if you've been following Israel for a long time, Prime Minister Netanyahu has been saying this for what, like 10, 20 years now? At least 10 years. At least 10 years. I should have saved the video. There was a guy that posted a video of all the times he's been saying this, and I believe he was saying it in the 90s, but I know for sure that he's been talking about it since at least the early 2000s, that, oh, we can't let Iran develop nuclear weapons. We can't let them develop nuclear weapons. We can't let them develop nuclear weapons. And is that really why they invaded Iran? Is it really to save the people? Yeah, see, Trevor Benson is saying, it's saying like since 95. That's about what I had in mind too. It was something like around 95, 96, if I'm not mistaken, that he first, at least the videos that he first started talking about it. But this is nothing new. This has been going on for, if it is indeed 95, we're talking 30 years that he's been saying the same thing. And do we have any proof that Iran actually has nuclear weapons? Because if we do, I haven't seen it. The thing that rang a lot of bells in my head yesterday, like literally again, 8:30 in the morning, I'm hearing Mark Carney, like the video we just played, where he's saying we cannot let them develop nuclear weapon. They backed the U.S. First time that Carney backs the U.S. since, at least publicly. Again, we all know they're friends. That's pretty obvious if you look at the way they act. But it's the first time publicly that Mark Carney is supporting Trump and the U.S. And they're now talking, because even Israel, even Israel, until now, they were not the biggest fan. Like Carney has not really endorsed Israel action in the Middle East. Now he does. So here's what I was thinking. When I heard nuclear weapons, the first thing that came up to mind is Iraq. I remember when they went after Saddam Hussein back in 2003 and said, "Oh, we cannot allow him to develop. We cannot allow Iraq to develop nuclear weapons," and then they invaded Iraq. That's back in 2003. Now, have we ever seen nuclear weapons? I haven't. I don't know for you, but I haven't. But the other one that rang in my head again when I heard nuclear weapon. That's true. Kuwait. That's a good point. Woke till you're broke. Kuwait is another one. But another one that a lot of people, that's true. Huh? So Bush Sr. went after Kuwait. The son went after Iraq. And remember Libya in 2001? If you guys remember this, Libya under Gaddafi, there's a lot of people that believe the US and NATO attacked Libya because of the petrodollar, because as the chairman of the African Union in 2009, Gaddafi proposed that Africans and Arab nations move away from the US dollar and the euro for oil transactions and instead use a currency that he was going to create, the gold dinar, which was backed by gold, by their gold. By the estimates I could find, Libya had 143 tons of gold and a similar amount of silver. So they were capable of starting this currency, the gold dinar, and have it backed by gold, Libyan gold. And it's not, and see, this is the thing, it's not just a conspiracy theory, because there were reports in the emails. Remember, what's her name? Hillary Clinton. When some of her emails got leaked and her mail server got leaked, there's information that was found that this was basically confirmed with their French connections. So with France, the country, because as I said, Gaddafi was looking at removing the petrodollar, to not go with the US dollar or the euro dollar, but to go with the new gold dinar that he was creating, which means it would have been a massive problem for the US. It would have massive problem for European nations. And somehow NATO attacked Gaddafi, attacked Libya. There's also Iraq. If you look in 2000s, Saddam Hussein announced that he would start selling oil in euros instead of the dollars, instead of the US dollar. And in 2003, the US invaded, and the currency for oil sales was immediately reverted to the dollar. And just look at what happened just a few months ago in Venezuela. Same thing, right? Maduro had the power, if he wanted to restart his oil, because they do have, I believe it was the second or the largest oil reserve. I just want to make sure here, because I should know this by heart. Venezuela oil reserve worldwide. I'm pretty sure they're either second or first. Oil reserve world. I think they're first or second. Yeah, the largest. So holds the largest proven oil reserve in the world at over 300 billion barrels, which accounting for approximately 17 to 20% of the global total. Yeah, that's what I thought. So you look at what they did in Libya in 2001. They were saying nuclear weapons, but it coincidentally, and God knows I don't believe in coincidences, but it coincidentally talked about, at the same time as Gaddafi was developing the gold dinar and wanted to switch from the US dollar and the euro dollar to their gold standard, their gold-backed currency called the gold dinar. And then the same thing happened in 2000s where Saddam Hussein announced that he would start selling oil in euros instead of the dollar, which is a massive problem for the US. And somehow they started saying that he had nuclear weapons and they invaded Iraq. Look at what happened in Venezuela again. They arrested Maduro, and you know that his intention was to sell oil to China. And now Maduro's out of the picture, and Trump has power over the oil and gas that Venezuela has. So it seems, if you don't need to be a big conspiracy theorist to actually see that there's always something going on behind the scene. And is it that hard to believe that the reason the US invaded Iran is because of it's because of the nuclear, it's because of the nuclear weapon. But at the end of the day, they need an ally in the Middle East. It would be a lot better for them to have a Western puppet, if you will, to have somebody that serves the US interests and Israel interests in the Middle East. Let's be honest, it works well for them. But there's also another theory that it's unfortunate that Rob's not here to speak about this, because he doesn't know much about the central banking, it seems like. At least he doesn't believe in the conspiracy theories of central banking. But there was some, there's some nice graphs out there saying that the only places that they don't have central banking right now are in countries where the US is going to invade. And that was true for Iraq. That was true for Libya. That was true for a lot of the countries that the US invaded. And the central banking is how you control a country. If you can print their money, it's one of the Rothschilds. I think it was Jacob the Rothschild that said that he didn't care who ran the country as long as you let him print the money. Because money is printed at an interest. Like, people believe that the Canadian money is printed by the government. It's not. Same thing as the Federal Reserve in the US. It sounds very, very governmental, but the reality is that the act, the Federal Reserve Act, states that the US only owns about 10%, and the rest is owned by international bankers. So they basically have a bunch of foreign interests printing their money at interest, and there's no way to ever pay back the debt. That's just a fact. If you're given $1 but you owe $1 and something, it doesn't even matter what the decimal is. It could be a portion of a percent. You still are never able to repay that debt. And you can go into fractional reserve or fractional banking. You can understand that they do create money out of thin air. You and I, if we did that, is fraud. But because they're banks, they're capable of having $100,000 in their account. And I believe that, hold on, the federal, what was it? The fractional banking, what was it? 4 times more. I can't remember exactly what it is. It's been a while since I looked into this system explained, but I'm pretty sure. I know that they can. So it's 10%. It's even worse. Yeah, it's 10%. So they can get $1 million. That means that they can generate 10. They only need $1 million, and they can lend $10 million to others as long as they have 10%. Yeah, it is definitely fraud. I agree with you 100%. 00 tries. You're absolutely right. If you and I did that, it's fraud. But because they're bankers, that's totally acceptable. They're allowed to create money out of thin air, because that's literally what they're doing. They're creating money out of thin air by inventing it. It's literally zeros in a bank account, but the money's not back. It's fiat money. It's not backed by anything. It only has values because we agree that it has values. That's it. And Sheridan, you're absolutely right. I agree with you 100%. Fractional reserve bank is a fraud. 100%. You and I would not be allowed to do this. You're literally inventing money out of thin air. And every single time that you do, you're creating more inflation. You're devaluating the currency value that is already in the country. That's why if you looked, I believe it was at the end of the 18th, 19th. It would have been at the end of the 19th century. There was currency in the U.S. called the greenback. We've all heard the greenback. It's awesome that I'm wearing a green military shirt today, but it's the last time the U.S. was really in control of their money supply is the greenback, because they controlled the amount. And as you said, that's exactly right. The word, such a complicated word I was looking for, is circulation. But the greenback is the last time that the US actually printed their money and was using it not in a way that you're printing too much money to devaluate your money supply, what's already in circulation. You're just printing enough money. You have just enough money in your system in circulation so that you can make sure that people have what they need in order to buy and sell products, like services, to be able to exchange services, exchange money for products and services. Because at the end of the day, that's all it should be, is you should have enough money in circulation in order to allow for your population to buy and sell services, and that's it. But clearly that's not happening when bankers that have no interest in that country outside of owning it, outside of controlling it, are responsible for printing their money. It blows my mind that the average individual does not know that. And you know, there's a great documentary. I know that I've recommended it here many times. It's called Money Masters. I believe that it is still Money Masters YouTube. I'm pretty sure that it's still available. It is still available. There's multiple versions, as in there are multiple uploads, because I don't think that the guy that created it years and years ago, by the name of William T. Steele, I believe he was. I haven't listened to this documentary in a long time. But this is such a great documentary. If you want to understand how money was created, how the money system works, how all of our money system works, how central banking works, Money Masters. It's a 1996 documentary. Such a great documentary. Yeah, it is. Albatwitch Wiggler 6905. It is still available. I'm looking at it right now. You know, the documentary Money Masters is so old that it's square. It's not even landscape, but it's from 1996. Great documentary. Very long, very dry. It's not meant to be entertaining, but what a great documentary. If you want to understand how money works, how central banking works, how the Federal Reserve works, what money actually is, Money Masters is the perfect documentary to listen, and it's free on the YouTube. I see that our guest has arrived. Craig, if you can hear me, thumbs up. You can hear me. Awesome. I'll bring you in a second. Before I do, we need to speak about the sponsor of the Political Orphans, which is Miss Cleo Pet Treats. Miss Cleo, 100% natural, healthy dog treats made by hand right here in Canada. It's all out of Manitoba. She literally makes them herself. She buys the meat from local farms in Manitoba, does all the treats herself. Your dog deserves it. Believe me, he deserves it. I just got a box a couple of days ago. Absolutely insane. Like, the ingredients are, it's insane. It's literally all handmade. The prices are phenomenal. She ships all over the place in North America. And because you're a fan of the show, we got a discount code, Political Orphans, for Miss Cleo treats, pet treats. Just look in the description below. You'll find the link to her website. You'll find the discount code. I just got the treats over the weekend and they're phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I haven't tried it, but my dog endorses them 100%. So the official sponsor of the Political Orphans. On that note, Tonight, we're joined by a man that I've interviewed before. We haven't spoken in a while, but this man is doing something that most don't even want to talk about. But we are joined by former Navy SEAL, sniper, combat instructor, owner of Tactical Insider, and the founder of Vets for Child Rescue, Craig Sawyer. Mr. Craig Sawyer, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, Nico. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome voice, awesome beard. Always a pleasure to talk. It's always an absolute pleasure.
Hey, I'm just glad to be here.
Craig, you do something that is probably, in my opinion, is the hardest subject to approach. I try to speak about this anytime I get a chance to do it, but it is absolutely insane how people do not want to approach this subject. And before we get into it, I just want to give props to your organization, vetsforchildrescue.org. I will link this stuff in the description below. But as per the information there, and I'm sure that it has changed, you guys have made 32 arrests with a 100% conviction rate. And I want you to explain what that actually means in a second. I'm going to give props to your documentary as well, because you did release a documentary, I believe it was in 2020, called Contraland, that is also available on YouTube. But for the people that don't know you, please explain who you are, what you do, and why do you do it?
Yeah. Well, for people that don't know me, I think the most important thing to realize is I'm just a busted up veteran and father who's wanting to expose the worst evil that I can identify. And I think it's the worst evil on this planet. And I say that after 62 years of fighting what I thought was the worst evil. So I grew up son of a pastor in Texas and 5A football player and boxer and fighting martial arts tournaments and just being a Southern Texas boy, and went off to the Marine Corps and then the SEAL teams and went to the highest level of counter-terrorist operations because I wanted to fight evil. I wanted to stop it from ruining the life of those that I cared about, the people that I loved. And so that's why I served in the military. And after a bunch of other things, the federal law enforcement and high threat mobile security over in the war zones, I learned about child trafficking in the United States. And I learned about, on the worst end of it, how it is a spiritual crime for those who are doing unspeakable things to children. And that's what we're seeing unveiled now in the Epstein files. So it's all coming together. I've been yelling at the top of my lungs for 8 years. They're doing unthinkable things to children. We have to stop this. You have to know it. We all have to link arms culturally to revolt against this abuse of the children, to stop it. And people didn't, you're right, people don't want to know because it's a revolting behavior. And it's revolting because you got to go all the way back to Genesis 6, man. People, if you want to study this, you can study any way you want, a book of Enoch, but really, if you go back into the Bible, the Bible lays it out. The fallen angels began a seed war, a genetic war against mankind as their method of fighting it back against the Creator, against the Almighty. And they began defiling and making abomination offspring and just defiling and perverting and distorting everything until the big flood was necessary. So that's what we're looking at now. The fallen angels are making war against God, and we humans are God's creation, and the fallen are jealous. They hate us. They want us dead. They're not allowed, apparently, to kill us, so they would kill us all. And one day they would kill us all. They're powerful beings, but they're not allowed. So they have to inspire and motivate humans to do the harm. And that's in the same way, if you're a Christian, you realize we get to be the hands and feet of Yeshua, of the Father. We get to be the hands and feet of Jesus to do his work on earth. That's the same way on the dark side. All they're doing is mirroring, trying to mimic or rip off or counterfeit what God's doing. So Satan's a big counterfeiter, is all he really is. So his fallen angels are doing that. So they want the most horrific things done to the children who are their most high value target. And they want the worst things done to the most innocent, and the most pure, the most precious, the most spiritually pure, the least deserving of harm. And that's why for the average human, it's so soul shaking to comprehend, because that is the worst of the evil that could ever be. The very worst done to the most precious and innocent as their way of waging warfare. So we were born on a battlefield. And I'm sorry, man, if you've got a pastor that's not teaching you spiritual warfare, he is failing you, in my opinion, because we were born on a battlefield. We are under attack. You are being hit with thoughts to do harm to yourself and others, and to go against your best interest, and to turn away from your creator. And that's allowed to test the hearts of men. And we were born on this battlefield. Your finances are under attack. Your health is under attack. Your relationships are under attack, especially your relationship with God Almighty. So if you're not being taught that, if you're not training yourself and educating yourself on how to be empowered, use the weapons and the defenses available to you for that, then you're way behind. So we have to catch up. We have to wake up now. The Epstein files are ripping the lid off, pulling back the veil. People are going, oh my gosh, the spiritual realm does actually exist. All the people running the most powerful institutions on earth are in this club. Like George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it. That's what he's talking about. And so we have to just learn how to start turning against them and waging war against them, and standing up for ourselves and for the little ones. And the beauty is that's we are on the winning team. The battle's already been won. And the one that spoke all the planets into existence and all of the fallen ones into existence is our daddy. And so we can walk as children of the Most High King, reckon some fools for the cause of good in a righteous way. And so the good news is, man, we're on the winning team and it all goes our way. But right now we're about to see what happens when good men do nothing and evil is allowed to run its course. And I think it's a cosmic lesson, an eternal lesson for us as eternal spirits, eternal souls, to watch, not just watch on the sidelines, but participate in helping save those who need it, but to watch and learn the lesson. Like, my God, that's what happens when we don't bring anything good and we just sit back and allow it to happen. So it's a beautiful time of awakening and empowerment of a lot of sleeping souls who haven't done anything good, haven't been a part of solving anything. But it's a painful awakening because a lot of people are warm in their snuggly beds thinking everything was okay. And it's not. It's never been since man has been on this earth. But the good news is it all goes the right way in the end. And it's about to go that way. But I think we're going to see it get pretty bad before it gets turned around. And that's, again, for all of our knowledge. There's my opener.
Take a drink. Make sure your throat is hydrated.
Yeah.
But as you were talking, one of our listeners said that, and I agree with him, we're doing a good job in Canada with MAID. You've heard about MAID, right? Assistance in dying that's going on in Canada.
Oh,
if you look at the statistics now, MAID has become the fourth highest cause of death in Canada. So assisting dying has become the fourth. And if you combine it with suicide, which it is suicide, it is the third. It is the third reason that people die in Canada after cancer and heart problems is suicide. This is how insane we've become in Canada. You just look at abortion is the same thing. You can't be that surprised that people are kidnapping, raping children, killing children when abortions, you read your Bible, you go back to Baal, they would throw children in pits of fire. They don't even wait that long anymore. They just do it right out of the womb. And what was the name?
If possible, while still in the womb.
It's insane. It's absolute. Possible. It's absolutely insane in the name of convenience. We are treating abortions like a way to get rid of, like contraception, and we tell ourselves that they're not alive. This is the society that we live in. But
Nico,
one thing
brother, even the deception, even the radical distortion of the
Mhm.
truth to call it care. If
Oh,
you can take what
oh,
they do to that living one in the womb and rip that little body to pieces while they're still alive, and you can invert that and you can sell it to the people as care, you've got a deep, wicked distortion that should shake your bones. But, it's been sold to us with a lot of sugar frosting of language and manipulation where yay, it's empowerment, it's care. Well, there's a lot of ways to empower our women. There's a lot of ways to care for each other, the women and the babies. And that's not one of them. That's something else. And once we realize that that's a ritual, they count that as a blood sacrifice in their
100%.
religion. That's what they're about. You catch them in their recordings talking about it and selling the parts and the power they get and how they get off on it. You realize, okay, we're all being deceived and lied to. Sorry, I just want to interject that.
No, but you're absolutely right. A few years back, I had the chance to speak with a Christian by the name of Seth Gruber in the U.S. Like, he's a massive, massive pro-lifer, probably the biggest pro-lifer I've ever heard of. And he said something along the lines that a third of his generation, because he was born in the 90s, Generation Z is missing due to abortion. I was looking at the numbers this week. It's estimated that since 1920, there's been more than 1 billion abortion worldwide. We're about 8 billion people, so an eighth of the world populations is literally missing, or the descendants is missing. It's absolutely insane too. It's very very simple for me to say that there is a spiritual war going on, and like it or not, you're involved. And I want to go back a tiny bit to your story as to why you started this, because if I remember correctly, and you correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a few years, like it's been a couple of years since you and I have spoken, but you didn't start as a Christian, right? When you were a SEAL, you weren't a Christian, were you?
I was, but I wasn't living the way a Christian should.
A
I
lukewarm
wasn't going around
Christian is
ministering to
basically.
my brothers. Hey, brother, you need to know your creator. He loves you, man. And there's healing for you, and there's power, and there's strength. I wasn't planting those seeds, maybe occasionally, but not like I should have. So depending on what day you met me, you may not have even known, sadly. So, but I was raised by a strong man of God. Pastor David F. Sawyer was my father. And man, he was the closest human being to Yeshua I've ever seen or heard of. And sincere, I watched him live it 24/7. And so now when I found out about, to answer your question, I found out about child trafficking from a guy in the intelligence community. And we were visiting in Houston, Texas, and having a conversation. And he began sharing with me what he was learning about child sex trafficking there, and how that was such a hot epicenter for it. And it upset me very, very greatly. I was like, or learning that an enemy was knocking at your gates, that was an enemy was marching through your neighborhood. It's like, that's how I felt inside. I was very upset over it. And one of the agents from another agency told me that on the higher end, that this was a spiritually motivated crime. And he goes, you may not understand this, but eventually you're going to find out it's a spiritually protected crime, and you're not going to have it much effect against it. You're just never going to quite know why until you figure out how to penetrate this spiritually. And that's when I realized I got to grow up spiritually. I got to become more like the man of God that my father had been, my daddy, David Sawyer. And I realized I wasn't there, not even close. And so I began kind of radically pursuing Yeshua and the Father, and asking, Father, is it possible to know you the way that Moses knew you? Is that available to me? Is that possible now? And then pursuing it. And to my pleasant surprise, the door's wide open. It's on us, man. It's on us, brother. We can pursue him and grow as close to him as we want. It's just we've been programmed to believe that he's some distant, judgmental grandpa in the sky that, you better hope he doesn't catch you doing a bad thing because he's just hoping to crush you. Not at all. He's the most loving, his grace, the magnitude of his love and his compassion and his mercy and his forgiveness, it'll overwhelm you if you get close to him and you get in deep worship and prayer and you start to feel his presence and understand things back from him. It'll put you on your face in reverence at the holiness of the power. So it's all he's the source of everything good. But we don't understand that anymore in this country. So much of the programming, and like you said, spiritual warfare, so much of the programming is all against that, to bring us down, to drive us down into a physical, miserable state where our bandwidth is maxed. We don't do anything that Yeshua walked and taught us, showed us to be. So it's only when you go back and you study that and then you pray into it and start walking it out that you find it now. So, man, these are wild times, though.
Yeah, there's one thing that's been going on, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but you've heard of the little monkey punch. It was going viral last week, and this week is a little monkey somewhere. I don't remember where he's from, but there was videos of him being abandoned by his mother. Like it's in a zoo somewhere, and he's trying to go to his mother, and his mother's just pushing him away. The gang of monkeys is just like, screw you, bro. You go play over there. So somebody gave him a little toy monkey that he would carry around and he would hug, and everybody is upset. Everybody's crying for a little punch. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, guys, you guys are heartbroken for a little monkey. And if you start doing some investigation, you realize that thousands, if not millions of kids each year they're sexually abused, they're kidnapped, they're sold. As per a 2024 UNICEF estimate, between 240 to 310 million boys, girls, men, and women alive right now were raped or sexually assaulted, but nobody wants to talk about this. It's absolutely insane when you start looking at the numbers, because looking for kidnapping, it's almost impossible to find actual numbers because they don't want to talk about this. That information is not out there because they're protecting that information. But one of the things that blew my mind the first time you and I met, and after watching Contraland, is that you're so calm and collected. I don't know how you do it, because how many pedophiles have you interviewed? Because for the people out there that might not know what you do, you literally set up sting operations with local police. You'll have a website going, you'll have ads in specific places where that pedophiles are looking at. You'll have a house somewhere where you say a kid or multiple kids are available. You'll even have a teenager there when they show up, or somebody that looks young when they show up. But you organize sting operations and arrest those predators.
Yeah, that's what we do it with federal, state, and local law enforcement all across the U.S. And we've run 3 operations already this year. And the last one we got was last week, and we got 5 more arrests and 29 warrants on that one. So
29 warrants for 29 different people?
Yeah. They're all written out, and then we turn those over to the host agency, and they work those over time. So they come, the predators come running for the kids. It's not cool to see how vile and how quick and how many of them come, even in small towns. So it's everywhere. All these guys, they're on the internet and they're looking at porn. Then they get bored. And then they start looking at weird porn. The next thing you know, they're at child porn, animal porn, snuff flicks, dark web stuff. And they just get into satanic, just complete evil and dysfunction. It's a downward spiral. Many are calling porn now a portal to the dark
gateway
side, to evil. I really believe that's true. I see some of these guys. I'll ask them, "Hey, why are you not attracted to a full-grown, healthy female?" And they'll be, "Whoa, I was watching some porn a friend sent me," and then years later, here I am. I'm like, "Well, now you're going to prison, dude." So that was no friend of yours to send you that porn, and you did yourself no favors and looking at it, because now your life is ruined. And I do hope you fix yourself on the inside. But yeah, porn is a powerful one, but there's a lot of ways, man. It's in all the film and television and music is all programmed now. The people we see through the Diddy parties, through the Epstein parties and Harvey Weinstein. If you want the big movie role, you want to be an A-list actor, you got to be a homosexual and you got to be willing to let them do things to you. And you got to be willing to do things to them you wouldn't want to do if you were a normal dude. Or you got to do things to children on video, or let them do things to you on video, and that is going to ruin you or put you in prison. And same thing with Diddy, same thing with Weinstein, Maxwell, Epstein, all of this. It's the same model of entrapment. It's a warfare on that targeted individual spiritually, but it's also more practical in gaining power over that elected official to control them, for physical power here on earth, or wealth, or benefits, and that kind of thing. So there are multiple layers to it, but at the top, everything's all the physical realm stuff that we see is a symptom of the greater spiritual war. And it's been going on since man was created. So nothing new under the sun. We have to just realize we were born on the battlefield and we have to learn to fight back. The good news is there are powerful weapons available to us, and we don't just have to hold up a shield and take the blows. We got swords, we have arrows, we've got all kinds of things that can shake and crush and cause powerful evil entities to flee, not because of our power, but by the authority of the Creator that lends us that badge, if you will, of his kingdom, to wield that level of power. And so it's good news, but we have to kind of just pull up our big boy pants, I'll say it that way, and look at what's really been happening. May not be comfortable, but it's what is, and realize, okay, Earth is not different. It's not the same as we've been taught, right? Most of our key institutions are temples of feces. Most of the celebrities that are celebrated and paraded in front of us and glorified are wicked, hateful souls that do unspeakable harm to children. So we got to realize, stop guzzling what's issued to us by the wicked who have bought up and built up the biggest institutions to control planet Earth, and listen to our Heavenly Father, the Creator himself, who created everything and wants us to be able to help him make it better, or at least help people who are terrified, who are broken, who are fearful and fleeing and in need, while our Savior returns. It's almost like being a paramedic in a storm. We get to share the good news. We get to go empower people, lead them to Jesus Christ, deliver them of demonic possession, pray over them, and let the Father heal them of sickness and injuries. And he does. I see it all the time. That's another thing a lot of people don't know. In the United States, man, a lot of the people that we interview in these witches' covens and satanic cult groups and stuff like that, they started off wanting real spiritual, supernatural interaction with the Creator. They went to church and there was nothing there. It was spiritually dead. Church was all about just trying to get the right people in seats to donate and get the money. And they were teaching them the soft things that would allow everybody to feel comfortable just so the money flowed, and not teaching about the spiritual warfare, about, Genesis 6 and the fallen and all that, what we need to really be empowered to make things better and lead people to Jesus, to cause people to want him and see the contrast. So after seeing a dead church, they wander off to find spirituality somewhere else, and they end up in a satanic cult group or witches' coven or other forms of the occult, and they get in some really dark situations, and some of them never recover, sadly, but others are gloriously redeemed, and they become powerful witnesses and like, wow, don't go that way. Let me tell you what that was like for 5 or 10 years or whatever they did. So, for everything, there's a reason, a purpose, and a plan. So we're supposed to be learning from everything. We're supposed to be learning from when we sit back and do nothing and evil plays itself out to its inevitable end, man, that's a bunch of destruction. Don't go that way. We're supposed to be learning that lesson. And let's not sit back any longer and do nothing. Let's not let evil prevail any longer. And if you know the spiritual score, you're not walking in fear. Why does the Bible say, fear not 365 different times, one for every day of the year? Well, if I look at it like this way, I celebrate that the scientists are learning a lot more about how the Creator made us to be. Like they're learning now that the heart is not a pump; it's an electromagnetic vortex generator, and it uses electromagnetic energy to spin the blood and basically draw it through the body. It's just the way the Father created us. We're still just trying to comprehend how glorious and beautiful. But they're looking at physical matter and the particles at the subatomic particle level with these big electron microscopes, and they're going, wait, like, great Scott, if we look and we magnify physical matter greatly enough, you get to where you don't even see a particle at all. You just see energy vibrating at different frequencies. And they're admitting they don't understand why it's vibrating, or this piece is vibrating at that frequency and the next piece is vibrating at a different frequency, and why we perceive it as some sort of physical matter. They don't know why things are behaving that way. And they're saying it's almost as though entity, infinitely greater consciousness, willing everything to behave just as it is. That's God Almighty. That's my Yeshua. That's Yahweh. So thank you very much, scientists, for discovering a little awareness of him. But if you understand that, folks, and I shared all that with you just to say this, he literally holds everyone and everything together at the subatomic level with his will. The evil ones can do nothing against them, except for he allow it for our own temporary knowledge and experience so that we learn from it. You're not to be afraid. Nothing's going to happen that's beyond his will to allow to happen for our long-term good. So quit being afraid and start acting like you are the child of the Most High King, because you are. Christians, walk under his wing and walk with your head held high and start flipping some wicked tables over and making things better, because you can. And that's why you're here. So
one of the things, before I let you go, there's one-ish question I wanted you to expand on. I'm just going to pass a comment. You were talking about Hollywood earlier. There's somebody the other day that said that all those one-hit wonders that we've all seen throughout life, the reason they're one-hit wonders is that they refused to accept the cost of fame. They just said, screw you, I'm not doing this, and then they disappeared. They never stayed in the limelight because they weren't going to do what they were supposed to do in order to get that fame. I found that comment to be extremely interesting. I'm like, that would make so much sense to me. They rose to fame, but they couldn't stay there because they denied what it took to actually get there. I found that very interesting.
Me too. That resonates with me as likely. So I don't know any specific instances, but I do know, like in the case of some Christian actors, they were once it came out that they were Christian or conservative, they were blacklisted by the club that you ain't in it. They were blacklisted and they quit getting the bigger roles, and but it is very much run that way. It's a bunch of little weasels who can't earn it through talent and merit, and they have to suck up to move up, and that's what you're up against. And it's global. And good news, we're starting to see it now. That the Epstein files are exposing it all. I think they're panicking and running, and so let's tear it all down and make things better.
The last question I had for you, and that's something that you and I spoke about a couple of years ago when we first talked, and it kind of blew my mind, because to this day, again, I've thought about this many, many times since our conversation. I'm still not there. I'm still, even as a Christian, I have a hard line in the sand. I do not accept pedophile. I still believe that pedophilia should be met one way alone, is by decapitating, removing the head from the body. As bad as this sounds, and I know as a Christian I should never say something like that, I just cannot get past that. I could not understand. I would go to no end if somebody touched my son. Like, to me,
Yeah.
this is the limit I draw in the sand. You cannot touch children. That is something that is unacceptable to me. And I'll have the conversation with God later
Yeah.
on if I actually commit something I shouldn't do. But
Well, you
you
comprehend
mentioned
the harm. You get it.
100%.
Yeah. A lot of
Yes.
people don't. They don't comprehend the level of trauma and the
No.
the deep scars on that soul and how it wrecks them. They don't get it. But please continue.
But that's where I wanted to go, because you said something last time that I'm going to let you explain. Is, as someone that's been in the presence of dozens, if not 100 pedophiles that interacted with them directly, I know that you don't believe in the death penalty. You don't believe in killing those people. But at the same time, you said last time we spoke, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember your exact words, but you said something along the lines that they are spiritually hurt. Like, what they're doing it's a spiritual war that we're facing. So what do you suggest, as somebody unlike me that doesn't interact, at least not that I know of? I don't interact with pedophiles. I don't know who they are. I've never got to study them, if you will, personally,
Sure.
the way you've done. What is the solution to what we're seeing? What's the solution to getting rid of that evil that attacks our children?
Well, it's got to be a cultural turnaround. We've been conditioned right now culturally to be tolerant of every attack on us. And this attack of gender dysphoria is demonic.
Mm-hmm. I
This
agree.
attack of pedophilia is demonic. And I do believe in the death penalty. Absolutely. After a fair
Oh,
trial. Because if someone
yeah, okay.
accused you of whatever, wouldn't you like it if the evidence was gone through and they came to the real truth, whatever that was, good, bad, or indifferent? Like, oh, well, he actually didn't do this thing. Whew, okay. So we have due process for a reason. Going through the factual evidence, if he is a pedophile and he was traumatizing children, raping children, then absolutely, I believe he should be executed. That's my many people's opinion who understand the level of harm. But I do believe that it's demonic. So, but unless you have allowed such evil, inviting it in to where you're completely overrun and they're basically animating your body, you still do have free will on what you allow yourself to do. So there's a lot of accountability there, but there's also I think the ability for these people to be delivered, but that's a spiritual thing. That's got to be a very deliberate spiritual deliverance from that demonic oppression that's driving that very sick person to do those harmful things. That doesn't mean you trust that person after that, along with children. It just means, you know, but I'd like to see a study done where there's deliberate, high level spiritual ministers who are very proficient with demonic deliverance do that in a case study with hundreds of pedophiles and see what that looks like, because I believe the creator can heal anyone of anything. But I think that's the lowest level of evil, is harming the precious little ones. So that if there's a bridge too far, that would be it, especially the ones that torture the children in these bloody sacrifices, highly demonized rituals, and they make the children do unspeakable things to each other and murder each other. And just it's utterly vile, highly demonic. So that stuff, those people should just be taken out back, in my opinion, just shot. But anyway, there's something else I wanted to say about that though, real quick, man. That's happening. Epstein files. People need to know that a lot of the people that own and run the biggest institutions, all the global banking, that's the club. That's what they believe in. So we need to stop yielding and bending the knee to them and allowing that. So the culture is, oh, that's what I was going to go back to the culture. We've got to turn the culture back around to one that is protective of children rather than harmful. It's been sold to us. It's a psyop that we have to be accepting, be tolerant of that which will kill us, or that which will traumatize us or kill our children. No, we must never. Yeshua never said that. Jesus never said we would be tolerant of things that are harmful to us and our children. So we have to realize we've been ripped off and lied to, and tear off the blinders and wake up and stand up together, link arms and say no, and mean it. Mean it. Throw bums out of office that aren't carrying our wishes. And our wishes need to be that the children are protected at long last. And that we can do. And, you got up there in Canada what we have in California with Newsom, and we got, there's governance that's completely backwards on a lot of things. And we can't laugh at you up there, because look at what the U.S. has gone through in the last couple decades, man. We're all embarrassed. We're all ashamed of people that have misrepresented our peoples, and I hope and pray, and we're working towards better representation so that the wicked are arrested, brought to account, and that the children are honored and protected, and that we embrace that aspect of who we are, and that we stand loud and proud with it. Leave the children alone. They are not for sale. They are not your plaything. Leave them out of your sex life. Keep your hands off of them, or we'll crush you. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is they don't put pedophiles in general population, usually because I've had jailers tell me even a murderer will kill a pedophile. And I'm like, why? Because he says even a murderer sees the devil in a pedophile. I'm like, wow, that's deep, because that's how it is. They will kill them.
It's the lowest of the low. It is the worst thing that you can do is hurt, rape, kill, murder children. To me, it is unforgivable. That's why I'm saying it. I know as a Christian, I'm supposed to be able to forgive and believe that Christ can heal everything, but I do struggle with that one. That is my land in the sand, my line in the sand that I cannot cross. You mess with kids, and to me, you don't deserve to live.
And forgive doesn't mean not to bring to account, right? Not to punish, not to put in jail for the wrong. And it doesn't mean to condone the wrong, to say it's okay. No. Jesus never said we had to do that, nor should we. But we should release the anger and the hatred that holds us down. It makes us sick. So that, forgive, let it go. The Father's going to deal with them. Just know, hey, pray for their soul that they get turned around, because God can take anything and glorify and make it, redeem it, make it pure. We can't comprehend a lot of that, but his ways are higher than ours. So I do believe in, stopping them and putting them in prison. And maybe if God's merciful, their hearts will change before their eyes close for the last time and they wake up in hell.
Greg, thank you again for accepting my invitation. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for what you do, man, because I can't imagine doing what you're doing. I'd be in prison. I would have done something.
It's a blessing.
I know. But good for you, man.
I hear you.
Good for you. You have a control that I do not yet possess. I hope when I'm as mature, don't take this the wrong way, when I'm as mature as you are, I will be able to see it, but I do struggle. This is something, I have a 7-month-old. I cannot imagine somebody touching him. There's nothing I wouldn't do. Like, this is something I can't comprehend. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for accepting my invitation. It's always a pleasure. I have such respect for you as the way you deal with this. We're not around this. Like, I can talk about it, but I'm not around those guys yet. You're able to keep your composure and still believe that
you are. You just don't always know it.
Yeah, but you have
meet
faith
them every day, unwittingly. Because there's a lot bigger percentage of the populace. It may be a quarter of the populace. I mean, it's more than we want it to be. Whatever the percentage is,
There's a big difference in the US. You guys have your list of sexual offender available online. In Canada, they refuse to release it.
Yeah.
It is private. I've tried to figure out why, and all I can find is that lawyers are protecting the pedophiles because they deserve to be anonymous. They deserve their privacy. I'm like, are you serious? You don't deserve anything. The children deserve everything. You deserve nothing. But that tells you the type of
That's the
sick
club.
society we live in. Yep.
Mhm. Yeah.
Thanks again, brother. Always a
Thank
pleasure
you.
to have you on. I'll have you again. It's a shame my co-host wasn't here. He's with his son tonight, but he's an atheist. He's a liberal atheist, and he could have used this type of conversation. That would have been a great conversation. But I'll have you back when he's here.
Yeah,
But
we'll have
again,
to do it again.
thank you, 100%. Thank you for doing what you do, brother.
All right. Thank you. Blessings.
Have a good day,
You too.
guys. This was Craig Sawyer, ex-Navy SEALs, ex-sniper, the founder of Vets for Child Rescue. If you've never heard of him, I would suggest that you go check out his website, vetsforchildrescue.org. If you've never seen his documentary, he released one called Contraland, Contraland. It's free on YouTube. You can check it out. It's he does show some of the sting operations that he did, and if you didn't listen to the whole interview, he just mentioned that he's arrested already 3 because of the sting operations that he's working on with local enforcement and federal enforcement in the US. They've arrested over 3 people already this year, and I think he said either 27 or 29 warrants are in play right now against pedophiles. So it's interesting because we've seen, I don't know if you guys have seen Sound of Freedom, but you hear of cases like Tim Ballard, which not only arrested pedophiles but actually rescued at least a couple children. And then you get to meet a guy like Craig Sawyer that actually does that too. And Craig Sawyer is a badass. Like, we're talking about ex-Navy SEALs. So I always love to hear stories like his. He's a very big Christian, a very big believer. His father was a pastor, as he mentioned earlier, but his faith is something I look up to, because there are things that I still have problems with, like how do you deal with pedophiles? But yeah, it was a great conversation. I'm always happy to speak to a guy with his type of faith. I look up to this type of faith. It's extraordinary to be able to do what he does, because it is the most horrendous crimes that you can do, is the atrocities that are being done to children. And he's the perfect man to do his part to try to catch those people. I have so much respect for what that man does. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the interview with Craig Sawyer. Hopefully you enjoyed it, because I want to have more of those hard conversations too, because I've recorded in the past with a woman that used to be a police officer and that would organize sting operation to catch pedophiles. They would have very young looking women to get pedophiles to show up, and they would arrest them. I've dealt with a tattoo artist in the past where she gives her time to people that were child trafficked, that were prostituted, that have marks. She's a tattoo artist, and she specializes in covering brandings, because that's another thing most people don't know. The pimps, the people that sell children, they brand them so that it's just like cattle. It belongs to them. And one of the things that they need to carry around even afterwards, when they get out of it, they're rescued, is that branding. So as a tattoo artist, she gives a lot of her time to help cover those brandings. So yeah, I've had the chance to record with a lot of great people. Hopefully I will have them on the show, but hopefully you guys enjoyed those. If you do, let me know in the comment section. I'm really curious to know if that's the type of stuff you want to speak about more, because I do. I want to talk about the hard stuff. I want to talk about what other people don't talk about, because I'm a Christian. We need to be able to have those hard conversations. And you guys tell me, because at the end of the day, man, we record this show for you guys. If it wasn't for you guys, this show wouldn't exist. So I'm really curious to know, do you guys want to have more of those hard conversations, to have the really hard topics that others will simply not speak about? If so, let me know. Just let me know in the comment section, and I'll organize more. I'll find more people like Craig Sawyer to come on the show to speak about these things. But first show of the week, Rob wasn't here, but he's going to be here tomorrow. He will join us tomorrow as usual. But tonight, I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you enjoyed the interview. I hope you guys want to hear more of those conversations. If there are people out there that you believe I should have on the show, let me know. I reach out to people all the time and I love to do so. I'm very good at it. So info@nicolagan.com. If there are some people you believe I should have as a guest, let me know. I will happily reach out and make it happen. I'll do my best to make it happen. And on that note, guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. And I will wish you a great night. And I will see you guys tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Peace.